Hello, I'm Marcus V. Calvert, and this is Tales Unlimited. Welcome. Today I'd like to read an excerpt from I, Villain, the first novel in the I, Villain series. What is I, Villain? In short, Sin City with superpowers. What would happen if you took Benjamin Cly, gentleman fixer, dude in a suit with love handles and a phone, and also the best mercs in the world, a small army of them. He has them all over the world, they do whatever needs to be done, no questions asked, all sides of the law love his work. Here's the problem in I, Villain. Until the start of the first book, he's riding high, and then a deal goes wrong and he's forced to give it all up. He can't be a criminal anymore. He loses all of his money, he has to fire all of his people, and worse, he has to fight crime. It's sort of a cruel prank. It's called community service, this punishment. If he takes a night off, he dies. If he leaves town, he dies. If he messes with mob affairs, he dies. Other than that, though, he is shown mercy for this thing that he did. And his life expectancy, however, is not very long. I, Villain, Chapter 2, Excerpt. Enjoy. The evening wore on with mockery slowly dying in the background. I was halfway through my late evening emails. Come with us, Mr. Cly, a male voice shouted over the band. I looked up from my smartphone. 3 large men towered over my booth, all dressed in black suits. The chatty one stood in the middle and looked to be in charge of the hard-faced trio. They weren't human. I could spot superhumans and their powers at a glance. A useful ability, it revealed that all 3 were quite dangerous. The leader was a kinetic. To his left was a metal former. The one on the kinetic's right was a pyrokinetic of sorts. Hired for their offensive abilities, these dark-haired lads looked Irish enough to be here tonight. Not that it mattered. When it came to hiring superhumans, Seamus didn't care about ethnicity. If a potential recruit had useful powers and played by the O'Flernan's rules, that super was always welcomed. Openness like that gave the O'Flernans an edge over the other local mobs who still preferred their ethnic ties. Still, this didn't seem right. Normally, Seamus's bodyguards were human, which made sense. I wouldn't pay my superhuman contractors to babysit me either. My people were more valuable in the field, solving problems for well-paying clients. Previously, whenever Seamus wanted to meet, he'd send one of his rank and file to fetch me. Now I was looking at 3 heavy hitters. It wasn't his style. Either he was worried about a specific threat to his life, or this was the rescue op I've been anticipating all night. These 3 could be federal agents trying to lure me into a late evening incarceration, or worse. My people would be watching. If things got too far out of line, then they could intervene. Since I had been expecting to get caught up in a federal raid, extraction plans were in place. Too bad those plans were worthless now. These guys singled me out, which we didn't account for. Yes, my people could adapt and still attempt a rescue. The problem was that, with the exception of Pinpoint, their skill sets and powers were suited for stealth. These 3 could easily wipe out my entire team and have the building if things got violent. An irritated sigh escaped my lips as I polished off my second glass of wine. Then I slid out of my booth and put the phone away. The kinetic took point and headed for the nearest exit. The other 2 waited for me to follow, then formed up on either side of me. These 3 drew curious stares from the rank-and-file mobsters, which made me doubt that they were O'Flernans. We passed Vincent Mockery's coffin. I would have sworn that the poor bastard was still moving around a bit. My escorts utterly ignored the traitor, which could have meant that they weren't here to save him. I noticed Pinpoint, who stepped away from a crowded table, plates of food in hand. She gave me her "I hope you know what you're doing" frown, then went back to work. If this was business, I'd handle it. Trouble? I'd handle that as well. We headed out into the hallway and toward a bank of elevators, 3 on each side. The metal former tapped the button and kept his eyes on me. The natural-born super stayed within easy reach, which made sense. In the blink of an eye, his pale body could turn into solid titanium. His skin, internal organs, and even his hair would become metal. As for physical strength, I suspect that he could punt me across the city without much effort. His partners eyed either end of the hallway with the lethal readiness of professional muscle. I gave their powers a second glance and felt a bit envious. The kinetic's eye beams were a straightforward part of his augmentation. The fact that he could make energy shapes from said eye beams was even more intriguing. The pyrokinetic's power was a minor birth defect. A natural-born super, he should have been able to create and control flames with his mind alone. Instead, his power had an oral component. With a bit of concentration, his voice could cause objects to burst into psychic flame, which he couldn't control or douse. Still, the louder he talked, the bigger the fire, which made him dangerous enough. The nearest elevator door had a nice steel polish to it. Since I was about to see the big man, I used this opportunity to check myself over. There was confetti on the left shoulder of my navy blue Armani knockoff, which I quickly brushed away. I've worn the same armored suit almost every day for damn near 10 years. It survived shootings, bombings, and plenty of other hazardous events while looking just as new as the day it was made. Armor was a necessity in my line of work, but it had to be, not as overt as a suit of plate mail. Thus, my 10 pounds of grenade-proof, multifunctional business attire was a logical choice. Layered with armored nanofibers, my suit was worth more than this entire building. Even as I picked up love handles over the years, the suit self-tailored for a relaxed fit. The white shirt and black shoes were also part of the package. Satisfied with my clothing, I gave my face a quick once-over. I needed some tanning bed time. Brutishly ugly, with a decent chin, my lifestyle, surprisingly, didn't make me look much older than my 43 years. I stroked the thick, brownish-gray goatee. A month old, it itched a bit, but folks seemed to like me better with one. I noticed some bits of confetti in my slicked-back hair. Since I didn't have a comb, I didn't bother dealing with it. Then I sized up my gray eyes and waited for a twinge of revulsion, guilt, or self-loathing. I had just watched a man get beaten, mutilated, and left to die in a coffin. To my relief, I didn't give a shit. I had seen and done much worse in my past. Being a decent fixer required a clinical detachment that bordered on lunacy. Even mobsters cared about someone. True fixers, however, could only care about their own lives, business interests, and reputations, period. Things like conscience, family, and friends were merely exploitable weaknesses. I'll stop there. Yeah. Chapter 2. I-Villain. If you wish to see the books of the I-Villain series or the Tales Unlimited books in general, please check out talesunlimited.net. I'm Marcus V. Calvert. Have a nice day.